this computer. Good. So we are in week 4, and we are going to talk about views, means MySQL views, and database administration. That's mainly talk about the different roles of a DBA, and we are going to talk about the file types in a MySQL server. So files or file types in MySQL server. So those are those 3 topics we are going to cover today. Okay, let's move to next slide. And it talks about MySQL views, or the definition of MySQL views, or a MySQL view. So let's take help from the machine and read the text.
In SQL, a view is a virtual table based on the result set of an SQL statement. A view contains rows and columns, just like a real table. The fields in a view are fields from one or more real tables in the database. You can add SQL statements and functions to a view and present the data as if the data were coming from one single table.
Okay, so views actually a virtual table, or you can tell a subtable, or a smaller version of a large table that created and keep all those fields and rows. Fields means the columns, and the rows means the data contained by the mother table. So that view is a virtual table, and in MySQL you can perform all those data manipulation commands using your using MySQL statements, and you can run or use or apply the same type of SQL queries on a virtual table, means view of a table. Okay, so this is the definition of a MySQL view, and MySQL view is just only a subset of a table, and it uses the same columns or same data fields that you will mention in the definition of the view. And in next slide, you can see this is the syntax or general form of defining a view, MySQL view. And you can see at the very beginning, create view. So create view are keywords. So blue colors are keywords, as also a keyword. And the view name, this name is given by the programmer. Then select statement. So you are going to choose which columns will be visible or which columns will be included in the view. And from, this is the mother table or original table, or sometimes it's called base table. So it is a base table, and you are going to create a view from the base table. Okay. And where condition, and this condition will filter out what kind of information or columns you want in that table. So this is the definition or general statement of defining a view. Now in this slide, I can do one thing. I can just make all those available for you so that you can test with me accordingly. Let's the recording, and let's go in PHP MyAdmin. So according to the slide, we need to import customers.sql. So let's go to the XAMPP server. Oh, that's okay. Let's choose DB1 and go in import, choose a file. And this is in week 4. So customers.sql, and let's choose go. Foreign key constraints fail. Okay. Or I can just create here classic model. Is there anything this? No. So let's import here. Choose here customers and go. Okay, all good. So we have a table now. It's called customers. And you can see those are those fields have this customer table. So customer name is a business name, and the contact name is the contact person of that business, address, city, postal code, and country. Now let's go back to the slide and create this new table. So we can see the table, right? We already see the table from here. Now we are going to create a view that is a subset of a table from this table. So let's go back and I'm going to paste this command. So it's the same drop view if exist Canadian customer. So I'm going to create a Canadian customer views. Okay, so create view Canadian customers as I'm choosing the columns customers, customer name, customer contact, city. From customers, this is the base table, right? So this is the base table, and the condition is only pick the customers, those are from Canada. So let's go, click on go, and you can see it's created. Now you can see also created a view, so object. So when you created a view like others, say event, function, and procedure, all are server-side objects. And see here also the view or views also a server-side object. So when you created a view, that view always preserved in your server. And when it is necessary, you can call that views or perform SQL queries on that views. So let's go here and you can see Canadian customers, right? So if you go in the base table, this is the base tables, and you can see this is a large customers information with different countries, but we created a views that only creates the Canadian customers, right? Because we put in the definition that country will be only Canada. Okay, so we created a views there. Let's move forward to the next slide. And as I said, you can actually perform queries that you can perform in a base table. So let's go back again and perform a query that's on a views. Now in this here, select all from Canadian customers. This is says Canadian customers. That should not be. And it's the same command I'm trying to run. Why it is not working? Here. So I'm performing a query that will display all the records or rows from the Canadian customer views. So Canadian customer, there is no table like this here, but this is a views, and we can perform, and you can see all those tables are created from all those fields are created, fields are retrieved from the views that we just created. Okay. So far we learned what is views, how to define a views, and how to perform a query in a views. Now you can even perform different operations or additional keywords to filter data. Now in the previous command we saw the list displayed is not in an order, right? So it says or in a different order, T, V, M, K, G. Is it in an order? Probably not, right? So let's go perform another query that's order by. So select customer name, some Canadian customer, and from order by. So it will sort this, and you can see the contact name is started with D, E, J, N, Y. So it's sorted in a in order, means ascending order. Now, if I just took it, this part, and let's see how it goes. And you can see the order has changed. So it's created the way it is in the table. So you understand you can perform SQL queries that is similar or same the queries you perform on the base table. So virtual views is a virtual table, and you can do most operations that you can do with a base table, but there is some limitations. We are going to learn that as well. Okay. Now create or replace view that's based on the view that we created. So we already created a Canadian customer view. Now you are familiar with the alter table, right? So create or replace view, that's actually an alter or update command on a views. And if you go, those are those keywords, create or replace view, all of those keywords as also a keyword. Then all of those keywords are familiar with you, right? And in the previous view, you can see we only had 3 columns, right? Excuse me. There are 3 columns. If I go here, you can see 1, 2, 3 columns. But if we like to alter this to add another column, we need to use this replace or create or replace command to update a views. Let's copy this command and try to run this, and let's see what happened. So let's go back to MySQL admin. Here, go, and right there, go. Now, if we click here, this command is executed, and let's check these views. And you can see it's added another column, postal code, because we had 3 different columns before. So now you know how to modify or update a views that is already in the system or in the server. Okay, let's go here. So the definition we saw in this slide, we have a explanation here, and let's listen this text.
These keywords serve to create or replace the existing view. When we run the create or the replace view statement, MySQL checks whether it exists in the database. If the view exists, it changes the view definition using the query specified after the s keyword. If the view does not exist, it creates a new view using the query specified after the s keyword.
Right, so this create or replace, this one is actually performing, we have a familiar command, drop if it exists. The same way if the views is there, it replaces that, or if not, then it creates a views with the same select statement requirement columns from the base table. Okay. Now let's perform order by command from our the new view we created. Okay. So let's go again in MySQL, and we have a column with the 4, and here, and I'm asking to do that order by city. And if you go there, and you can see this is the city name is ordered by, right? Let's go back. If I took order by from here, you can see the content displayed in an order that is in the original table. Okay. So the idea is you can perform SQL commands on a views as you perform those SQL commands in a base table or regular table. Okay. So update and a view example that update with update statement. So update statement that uses the view to update the base table. So if you like to update a base table, you can still update the base table, and it will, that reflection should come in the view. Other way, if you update the views, that update statement will take place in the base table as well. Now you can see the update Canadian customers. So we are going to update the Canadian customer views, and we are going to change the contact name where the customer name is Coffee Place. So let's go back to the base table and click the customers table, and let's find the coffee. Business name is Coffee something, right? That we saw. Coffee Place. Let me find something wrong. Where the customer name is Coffee Place and contact name is, update the customer name. Okay. And contact name is Prince G. Okay. Let's go back to I believe we missed a slide. Okay. So another information I missed in this slide, that a view once created can be joined to other views or tables. So you can perform join operation with a view with the other table. Now I believe I'm missing some command here. So copy place customer has updated in the base table. So let me find the Canadian customer, then I can fix that error. So go in customers and let's go, no, Canadian customers. Okay. Canadian customers, and I can see this coffee place here. Okay. In customer name, then there should be in the base table as well. That's interesting. Let's pause the recording again. And let's go back to the slide. And so the objective of this slide to perform an update operation on a view that will update the base table. And the command is update Canadian customers and set contact name. So we are going to change the contact name and where the customer name is copy place. Okay. And in the base table, we saw for coffee place 92, the contact name is Neil Young. And even you go here in the table, here is Neil Young. Let's perform this update. And let's click on go. And it's changed the contact name to PG. Let's go back here because we performed in the views. So let's check in the views. You can see the new name is Prince G. And let's go in the base table. And you can see, let's go make it 100. And that was a 92. Hopefully it is in the same location. Let's sort it so that it will be easier to find. Country and Canada. And you can see this is the record copy place and name has updated from Neil Young to Prince G. So the idea is if you like to update a view to update a table, so you can either update the table or you can update the view. That means if you update a view, that reflection will go to the base table. Okay. Now this slide is very important, and you can see, although we gave you an example that if you like to update a base table, you can do that update operation using a view of that table. But there are some non-updatable view as well. So to be more specific, a view is not updatable if it contains any of the following. So if any of those operations or properties is in a view, then that is not an updatable view. You can only see the figures or the data that retrieved from the base table. Make sense? So if those property are in a view, those views are not updatable view. Okay.
So if we update the base table, the reflection will be there in the view?
Yes, but you cannot do from the base because say you are trying to pull distinct member of a group, right? Now that distinct type might have a multiple item in the base table, right? So if you update one, then the view don't know how to update the base table or where the update will take place, or same as those aggregate functions, right? So if we have something like the salary of all managers, now the view is missing how many managers actually have. It is performing that sum operation and bring this sum to you through the view. So those are those non-updatable view property. Okay. Now,
Okay, and if we don't have those aggregate functions in our views, and if we update the base table, those updates will be reflecting to the views as well.
yes, yes, because when you call a view, it actually right away retrieve information from the base table.
Oh,
It never saved a table for you. It's always bring information from the base table.
okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
good. Now it's a pretty simple command, drop if exists the view name. So you can drop a view with this drop view command. Okay. Now, why we are going to use views? Those are those few things we are going to talk here, right? So advantages of views. So first one is simplify the query.
Simplify complex query. Views help simplify complex queries. If you have any frequently used complex query, you can create a view based on it so that you can reference to the view by using a simple select statement instead of typing the query all over again. Make the business logic consistent. Suppose you have to repeatedly write the same formula in every query. Or you have a query that has complex business logic. To make this logic consistent across queries, you can use a view to store the calculation and hide the complexity.
Right. So those two like subheadings, like simplify complex query or make the business logic consistent, both are actually some sort of queries because you implement the business logic, whether make an percentage higher in the interest rate or salary rate, whatever. So those are those business logic, and we perform business logic through our SQL queries. So those are actually pretty similar. And when you create a view from a large table, or another way, you can create a non-updatable view to use aggregate functions, right? So when you use an aggregate functions, there are a lot of calculations going on at the background. And when you create a view to avoid those complexities, this views has a much simpler presentation of complex calculations. So that's the idea, so that we can use views. So views mainly has two advantages. So reduce the complexity of business logic or queries, or simply if you have a very large table, you can bring the simplified information, customized information that's actually necessary for you or for your customers. Number two is add extra security layers and enable background compatibility. So let's listen the text first, then I'm going to explain those.
Add extra security layers. A table may expose a lot of data, including sensitive data such as personal and banking information. By using views and privileges, you can limit which data users can access by exposing only the necessary data to them. For example, the table employees may contain SSN and address information, which should be accessible by the HR department only. To expose general information such as first name, last name, and gender to the General Administration (GA) department, you can create a view based on these columns and grant the users of the GA department to the view, not the entire table employees. Enable backward compatibility. In legacy systems, views can enable backward compatibility. Suppose you want to normalize a big table into many smaller ones, and you don't want to impact the current applications that reference the table. In this case, you can create a view whose name is the same as the table based on the new table so that all applications can reference the view as if it were a table. Note that a view and table cannot have the same name, so you need to drop the table first before creating a view whose name is the same as the deleted table.
Okay, So let's start with the extra security layer. And I can give you a live example actually. So say as a student, when you register in Conestoga, our registrar's office has whole lot of information and HR too. So say your SIN number, your grading records, or like your payment, your financial support, a whole lot of things, your co-curricular activities, right? But say as a instructor or professor, you are assigned with someone's class, right? Now, if I go, I can give you an example here so that you understand how it works. So let's go back to go to my employee portal, and every professor and instructor has an employee portal, and we have a tab like faculty. And if I go here, you can click the class list. And in the class list, I can show you, say, PDF report, and let's see class list. And it will bring some information for me, and it is there, and I'm going to find that link for you. So class list, and in this class list, see what kind of information I have. Oh, what's wrong? Okay, you cannot minimize Zoom. You are recording this. Okay, now here. Okay. Can you share my? Can you see my screen?
No, Professor.
Yes.
No, sir.
No. So I stop probably sharing. Okay. Let's go again. Can you see now?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So see in the class list, what kind of information I have? I have your student ID, name, which program are you in, and your email address. Now, do you think Conestoga only has those type of information? No, Conestoga has a lot more. But when they give me access of this, they actually created a views, and that view has access to me. And they give me access of your student number. That's important for a professor. Your name and email address. Those are those things. I also have some extended access of the faculty, the students, like all your pictures, so that I can identify you, who is my students, right? So, but say they didn't give me access of the SIN number or your payment information or the grades that you got in other classes. You understand? So how the view helps and secure the information, not to expose too much unnecessary for different reasons. So you understand how views help, and that views is impose a security layer in the data that is stored for many reasons, for medical, for education, banking, lot of things. Now, enable background compatibility. Do you know what is legacy systems? Do you know what is legacy systems? What does it mean? So legacy systems are outdated software or whatever, mainly outdated software or file system or file types. Those are called legacy systems. View can enable backward compatibility. Suppose you want to normalize a big table into many smaller ones, and you don't want to impact the current application that reference the table. In this case, you can create a view whose name is the same as the table based on the new table, so that all applications can reference the view as of it is where a table. Say you upgraded the system and you rename the all tables. Now the thing is, the new name is not compatible with the other piece of software that is looking for the old table with a name. So you can create a name, say you rename an existing table. Now other system looking for that table with that name. So how to resolve it if there is a legacy thing comes in your office or in your company? So you can create a view of the base table that you renamed and keep a view with the old table name, and you can because it's saved in a server side, so that when someone call that, it will actually call and see that data from the view. So you don't need to rebuild the whole system again. Is that clear to you, this compatibility thing? I hope. So those are those views in a nutshell. We learn about views. Now we are switched to new topic, database administration and the file type. So views, we learn how to define a view. We learn you can perform the same SQL operations or queries that you perform in a base table. You can update a base table using a view. You can alter, means modify or redefine a view with create or remove view command. Then there is a case that views are not updatable, non-updatable, and those cases are listed there. Then you know how to drop a table, and now you know what are those advantages of using a view. Okay, so let's take help from the system to read this slide.
A database administrator, DBA, has many responsibilities that vary depending on the database. Maintenance. Monitor the server, start, stop, restart, etc. Configure the server, ports, TCP/IP connection, password, etc. Maintain log files, server activity logs. Start or stop the server when necessary. Design. Design the database. Create the database.
Okay, so here you can see configuration, and there is an example is password. So this configuration includes the security as well. So security configuration or general configuration. That's why it says configuration. Now there are additional, there are more responsibilities that have a DBA, that a DBA has. And let's read again.
Security. Maintain user accounts. Secure the server and its databases, user accounts, and privileges. Backup. Backup the database regularly. Restore the database if necessary. Migrate data to another server if necessary. Others. Optimize the server, number of connection, database engine, memory management, etc. Update software when necessary. Enable and manage replication if necessary.
Okay, replication means copy thing from one to another, one location to another, or create a duplicate data of the same database you have for backup or sharing or many other reasons. So those are those database administrator roles or job that a DBA perform in their everyday job. So if we go here, I believe I gave access, right? Week-4. Yeah, I did. And there is a PDF file I provided for your reading. So you'll find different information, DBA information, introduction to MySQL administration. You'll find all those details here, although those are very simple thing. And we are going to know more about those activities in detail and how do you perform those. So we are going to cover in detail in our next week's material. So just try to read this chapter, might be helpful to know more about or detail about or the have the example of the DBA roles. Okay. So now MySQL Server files. So when you run a MySQL server, there are different kind of files associated with that server. And if I go in this phpMyAdmin, you can see there is a, if you install at the very first, you can see this MySQL database. So as soon as you install a MySQL server, you will find these information are already there. And in this, you can see this slow log. You can find the user, I believe somewhere, roles mapping. Most of them are empty now because we are working as an admin. Now DBA, those are those. Page wrong, checksum from the storage engine area. Okay. Why? Indexes, what are those columns? Right, you can see so many different kind of columns. User, now privacy and privilege, all those things are maintained here. So those are those system tables that we need when you install a MySQL server and other server as well. So this is the core database, that the system created database that I'm trying to tell you. All other databases I just created for testing. So MySQL database is the core database that comes with the system. Like when you install an operating system, it has its own file. The same way when you install a MySQL server, it has its own file to run the server. So, and this is the core database that it has. Okay. So there are three types of files you will see in a MySQL server: configuration files, data files, and log files. Now, so far, when you create a database, the relations means different tables or database objects like procedure, events, view, triggers, all are different database objects that fall in this data file category. And log files, those are monitoring the server, and configuration files are different setup kind of files. Say a server has a conflict with the port number, you can change the port number. So those are those configuration you can perform. Or how many number of, like we talked about concurrency in last class. So MySQL server can run multiple processes at the same time. So you can limit or increase or decrease the number of processes by changing the configuration. Okay, so those are those three. And log files mainly maintain the monitor the activity of the server. That's the content of the log file. And we're going to talk about log file more, how to activate, deactivate, how to follow or interpret a log file. Now, configuration files. So you can see, let's go back to here. And you can see this configuration button for Apache that's the web server, and MySQL, this is for MySQL server. And if you click in admin, I mean this configuration. So you can see this my ini. So this is the file that contains different information that you need to modify. Now, if you click on logs, you can see, and the only log file is now recording, that's MySQL error log. And if you explore this, today is, now I'm running this server for long. So the first date I can see is January 1st, 2021. And let's go back to the very end. You can see this information is 3rd February, and you can see the time 12:15:23, and server socket created some IP or whatever. And I am not aware of it. It is taking its own record, and you can see easily how long this server I'm using. So I'm using this server from January 13, 2021, and I'm using the same server, so little more than a year. Okay. All right. So in this table, you can see that you will see my ini, and ini means initialization. So that's the initialization file, and CNF stands for configuration. So those are those global category. Now, now you can ask, what is global options, right? So say auto commit on or off, that's one of the global options, right? And we saw actually, let's go back to this. What are those global variables? If you go here, you can see these variables, and you can change the variable names. It means that change the configuration, whether on or off, or say here have SSL disabled. So if you like to, where is the SSL? If you like to edit, now I can. So you need a certain settings to activate this SSL. Those are those global files that you will know about this server configuration. So let's go back to the slide again. Now, my ini and my configuration, those are global options. So another place, right? So see, this is the general location, and they show it like C. And I have a portable version of XAMPP. Let's see if I can find this ini for you. XAMPP. And let's say .ini. And you can see, you can find PHP ini, but I'm looking for this my ini. You can see here, and let's find the location. You can see here XAMPP MySQL, and I told you MySQL is a system folder and database created by the system, and under data it has this my ini here. And let's open with Notepad++. It will give you, see, some information is here. There are multiple inis, I'm sure. This is not that one we are looking for now, but we'll know more gradually. Now, Again, you can see this another location of the configuration and my files, and all are for global options. My login configuration, so login path. Now, what is the login path? So when you will be set up a MySQL server, that server has a domain, subdomain, right? The local host we are using is a by default login path for us. But if you set like something something.com or .ca, you might have admin access through that domain and subdomain. So that's the path that controlled by this my login configuration file. Now, this one is system variable persisted with set persist or set persist only, server only. So this one is MySQL ID auto configuration. So this is another kind of configuration, and I read it. This is, let's go back to the official location of this information. And it is for is to value different of variables affect operations of the server clients, user defined variables, stored procedure, and stored system variables. So you will find all those configurations associated with different global variables and global settings of the MySQL server. Okay, so this is INI means initialization, and CNF means configuration files. So it's simply configuration files. Now, the data files. So there are three kinds of files. First is configuration. Then we talked about INI and CNF file types, and it has a different directory and it deal with those different server configurations. Now, in MySQL database files, that actually we play with every day. So the creating tables or any database objects like procedure, events, trigger, or views. So let's read this slide.
FRM, this is the extension of file which contains the schema or definition of the table, InnoDB. MYD, this is the extension of file which contains MyISAM table data. MyI, this is the extension of file which contains MyISAM table indices.
Okay, so the database or the tables or the other objects that we saved in our MySQL server, and if we use InnoDB, then you will find these extension. But if we use other than InnoDB like MySAM, then you might see those extensions that saves our file in the system. But most commonly is FRM file types. If you see an FRM file types, you can confirm that this is not a system file. Those are those user-defined data or database that we created or saved in our server. Okay. Now, the third kind of file is the server log files. And server log files, MySQL server has several logs that can help you to find out the activity is taking place. So you can actually track the server's activity by looking at the log file. By default, no logs are enabled except the error log on Windows. And we just saw that the error log, if I go here in MySQL, you can see only error log is enabled. All other is disabled. So we can see and here in Apache, access error and error log, PHP error logs, 3 logs are activated here. But for MySQL, by default in Windows, only MySQL error log activated. All other logs are not activated, but we'll learn gradually how to activate those, okay? Now, error log. So what is error log? Problems encountered starting, running, or stopping MySQL ID. So that is a command. It is a system MySQL LD. It's actually LD, known as the MySQL server. So this is actually referring the MySQL server is a single multi-threaded program that does most of the work in a MySQL installation. So the setup of the system. Okay. So if it runs or don't run, that's recorded in error log. Now, general query log, established current client connections and statements received from the clients. So when you log in to the system for different queries. Binary log, statements that change data, also used for replication. So binary log is as soon as you change a data, binary log should have a record on that. But by default, we do not have binary log activated, but we'll learn how to activate those. Relay log, data changes received from a replication source server. So replication means data copy, or the same copy of a replica. That's the same word, replica, than the replication. So data copy over, or make a copy of something. Slow query log, queries that took more than long query time seconds to execute. And if you go here in the server, you can see the information. The default value is 2. So some operations should not take 2 seconds, or maximum value 4 seconds. If it is above that, then it will create an entry in this show query log file. That's why it is slow. So this is a server management thing. Now, DDL log, data definition log, metadata operations performed by DDL statements. So you know, like MySQL has two kinds of statements, DDL and DML. So DDL is data definition and DML is data manipulation. So data manipulation should go in binary log, and DDL, metadata operations performed by DDL, is preserved in DDL log. Okay. So that's the all topic we are covered today. So mainly 3 things: views, then we know the role of a DBA, and what kind of files we preserve in a SQL server. So that's the 3 topics we covered. And now in this slide, you can see there is a practice task you should perform for this class. So I'm going to